I just love coming to Hawaii. It's so beautiful over here, especially on the beach at sunset. Look at these beautiful palm trees over here. And look over here, the beautiful Pacific Ocean. Such a beautiful sight any time of day, but especially at sunset. Oh, look at this. Now, I knew I'd see some people that I know over here. Well, it's so nice out on the beach, I'm just going to pull a chair up. Why not? Make myself comfortable. Oh, that's much better. Much better. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me today on AAA Akron's continued commitment to virtual online destinations. We have some great travel destinations that we've shown previously and many more in the upcoming months. But today's feature is on the island of Hawaii. And there are many islands over here in the Hawaiian island chain. I was here back in 2017, and I'd like to share with you today some of my best photos that I took when I came over here in 2017. And I'm very happy to report that we're going to have a trip to Hawaii that will be on January 25th through February 2nd, 2022. And I was able to get some more space for those that would like to go. Now, here's a map of the Hawaiian Islands, the typical islands you would think of. And we focus on this trip on the Big Island, Hawaii, on Maui, and also on Oahu, where Honolulu is located at the upper center of the photo. We fly from Cleveland out to the west coast and then on over to Honolulu, which is on the island of Oahu. You can see Honolulu at the bottom of the map. And we focus on the southern portion of Oahu, which is also where there's Pearl Harbor and, of course, Waikiki and several other notable sites. So Oahu, we spend a total of 3 days on our trip here. And we begin with views like this of the beautiful beach and Pacific Ocean and Diamond Head right here, close up in the distance from Honolulu. Here we can see many of the high-rise hotels along the beachfront in Honolulu, which of course is not far from Waikiki, famous beach as well. And here you can see some of the surf over there on the right-hand side coming in on the Pacific. And it's just a beautiful time of year to go to Hawaii when we're going to be going in late January and early February. This is a large city in Honolulu metropolitan area. There are just over 800,000 residents. And on the island of Oahu, there are 976,000 residents as of the last census. And on all the Hawaiian Islands, there's roughly 1.4 million inhabitants. Here you can see it is a large city, a very modern city, Honolulu. We take a wonderful city tour while we're here, and we do many other things, as you'll see. But there's much to learn about Honolulu. And of course, nearby is Pearl Harbor. When we go back to that infamous day when it was bombed by the Japanese, and we have here the World War II Valor Monument, and called the Pacific National Monument at Pearl Harbor. So we're going to bring the group here and have some time to peruse the site on our own, look at many different things, including memorials. And of course, the flag is always at half staff here, which it should be, considering what it represents. And from here, you can see in the distance, we have a white building that is strung out over the water, which is very significant. And that is has to do with the USS Arizona. You can take a narrated tour of that if you wish. And here is a diagram and a schematic of what the island looks like around Pearl Harbor. Here we can see more plaques with very significant things to look at. And then we work our way on over and get ready to take a cruise on a small boat on over to see the USS Arizona Memorial. Now, of course, we're in the bay, so it's very smooth sailing. There are no waves there. We get off the boat and walk into the USS Arizona Memorial. It's very interesting design on the outside, but of course, once we get to the inside, it's even more interesting in terms of the architecture. There are plaques in here to read, a lot of other important information. This sits directly over the USS Arizona battleship. It was not raised from the floor of the waters there, so we overlook them. And of course, they have many nice, any time of year, floral displays, quite appropriate. And here's the names of all that were lost when this attack on Pearl Harbor occurred. And of course, this involved the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Marines. And it was a very tragic time back in history of the United States. But we can learn much from it. And that's why we go here to pay respect and learn more about what happened on that fateful day. Then we get on a transportation, one of our very nice motor coaches. It could be Gray Line, it could be another motor coach, but it'll certainly be deluxe. And we continue our trek across Honolulu and get some more sights of the city as we work our way out to another very important site in the Honolulu region. Now, Hawaii became a state back in 1959. It's our 50th state. And on Hawaii, we have something very important. We have the known as the Punch Bowl Cemetery, or National Cemetery of the Pacific. This is very significant because this is the second largest national cemetery in America. Of course, the first is Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, D.C. Here we have 30,000 graves, and between those soldiers that have fallen in World War I, World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam War, and their immediate family, 53,000 people interred here. You can walk up those steps as you just saw to look at the sites up there, or you can get out and walk around a little bit, which will provide you some free time. So this is once again the National Cemetery of the Pacific, also known as the Punch Bowl. And then afterward, we go by the Hawaiian State House. Looks a little bit different than ours in Ohio, but it's very significant. And there's a couple of very important statues around this State House. Here we see Father Damien. He was very significant in Hawaiian history. In 1865, he was a priest, and he was assigned to an area of Molokai, which was a settlement for people with very contagious diseases, including leprosy. He served for 16 years with that island, and he died, unfortunately, of leprosy 16 years later. Well, now here's the governor's mansion. We don't really get to go in there, but it's beautiful to see from the outside, governor's mansion of Hawaii. And of course, another very significant site is this statue of King Kamehameha. Now, King Kamehameha is very important in Hawaiian history. There were actually 5 King Kamehamehas. This one, King Kamehameha I, is the most significant and is considering the founding father of the Hawaiian nation. So this dynasty lasted for 90 years. He took over in 1782, and it went until 1872. Now, when you think of Hawaii, you think of many things, including surfboards, spacious beaches, palm trees, and of course, that's what we see right here back in Honolulu. Beautiful sight. And of course, the Pacific Ocean. Now, this trip that I am offering to the Hawaiian Islands is, as I mentioned earlier, January 25th to February 2nd of 2022. I was able to get some additional space on this trip to the beautiful island of Hawaii and surrounding islands, but the space will not last long. So I do encourage you, if you like what you see today, that please get in contact with me to learn more about the trip and request a detailed itinerary. But of course, one of the things you must do when you're in Hawaii is go out to the beach and watch the beautiful sunset, as many of these people are doing. Sunsets as well as sunrises are spectacular. And you see that there are people out in the distance on surfboards on the water. So that if you look at this carefully, this photo, those are actually people on surfboards as sunset approaches. And of course, clouds come and go. But the interesting thing is they add dimension to the sunset. And here you can see some pretty good surf coming in, which the surfers love. And there we can see the sun peeking out in the middle of your screen, right beneath the cloud deck. And as it begins to lower, we get some other views right before it falls under the waterline for the night. So this is one thing I highly recommend is watch the sunset in Hawaii, as many people do surfing or on sailboats or just relaxing out on the beach. There's so many ways to enjoy a sunset in Hawaii. Now, as we can see that this particular day was, as many days are in Hawaii, mostly sunny, light winds. And if you stick around long enough, of course, the moon comes out. So I'm out on the beach here taking a look at the moon, getting photos in between the palm trees, makes for some interesting angles. And here you can see as dusk falls on Hawaii, some of the lights, and it really is very nice. Now we enjoy our time in Honolulu and Oahu, but it's time to move on. So we get on Hawaiian Airlines and we continue on and we go to our next island, which happens to be the Big Island, which is known as Hawaii. So keep in mind it is called Hawaii, but there is an island, the biggest, called Hawaii as well. And there are 137 islands that comprise Hawaii. Now this island, we're going to go to the south, Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, and also on the west side, Kailua Kona. And of course, we're going to see other sites not far from Hilo. So we cover the island pretty well. Now here is at the Volcanoes National Park. They have the Kilauea Visitor Center. And this is, as I mentioned, Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. They've got some very interesting memorials on the outside. And of course, we have time to go on the inside and see this amazing visitor center. But even more impressive is this is an island and a national park that has active volcanoes, and to varying degrees, they are erupting at any given time of the year. And then again, there's other areas on the island where it is dormant with just craters. And then there's black sand beaches, like the Punaluu black sand beach that we see here. We normally think of sand as being white, which it normally is, but this is so volcanic with the igneous rock that it is a black color. So we do on this trip go out to the black sand beaches and to look around. It's quite a sight to behold. Then we go to a very interesting fishing village, Kailua Kona. This is an ancient fishing village, and this is where they have Hawaii's first church, as you can see. And it's a very interesting church, I must say. We go up on the hillside, get some beautiful views of Kailua Kona, and enjoy our time before getting on the plane and continuing on to our next destination. Now, each of these islands we're looking at, we spend roughly 3 days. But then we go on to the third island, Maui, where we really have a lot to see. For example, we go to the southeast side, Mount Haleakala, and then we also come into the airport, which is up by Kahului, and we look around the west side of Lahaina. So we really cover this island pretty well. It's much smaller than the island of Hawaii. Now on Maui, there's about 150,000 residents. We go to the Io Needle. Now from the ground floor up to the top, as we can see, this rock formation in the middle, it's like a pinnacle that sticks up. It's 2,000 feet from the ground up to the top of that peak. Of course, we're not going to try and climb it. That could be pretty dangerous, but it's nice to look at from the base and just get some interesting photos. Now, there's not a lot of going up and down steps here. It is a very, even though it's a little hilly on the island, these are paved walkways, so you can do as much walking or as little as you wish. There you can see the parking lot with the motor coaches in the distance at the Io Needle, a must-see when you go to see this island. Now, we give you some free time here to look around at your own pace, which I think people enjoy. And it's a very thickly forested area, almost rainforest in this region. But then we go to the west side of the island, over to Lahaina. And this is a beautiful island, many beautiful homes, very stately. And of course, they have a nice park here with some ancient cannons from back in the day when they were defending against other people that were trying to invade the area. Now, there's much to see and do in Lahaina. They've got Hilo Hattie. Hilo Hattie, if you need a good hat from Hawaii, this is where I get my hats. And they got many other things available here as well. So you want to be sure and check that out. A lot of other gift shops. We do a little tour of Lahaina and then give you free time for the gift shops, many places to eat, and also get snacks. It's a beautiful little town, Lahaina. And in this one park we're going to visit, they have ancient banyan trees. Look at these trees. The roots are unbelievable. And the way they spread out, they look different from any other tree. Many of these are approaching 400 years old. So you can walk through the park at your leisure and walk amongst the banyan trees. Quite an experience. I highly recommend everybody try this out. And even sit on the benches with the large branches looming overhead. So this is an amazing park to see on this island. And of course, on any of the Hawaiian islands, there's plenty of golf courses. And our hotel is never far from a golf course. So if you do like to play golf, there will be some free time on the various 3 islands that you could go and play a game of golf. And if you're not into golf, it's a beautiful sight. Just look at the course anyway. Here you can see mountain range in the distance. And of course, once again, always allow time to go and watch the sunset, as this couple does. Watching the sun set right over the Pacific Ocean makes for great memories. And then you get interesting coloring in the sky and the clouds immediately following sunset. Here I'm on the beach just after sunset. There's nice palm trees. And then the next morning, I got up early, and this is another thing that we can all do. We can get up and go up on the top of Mount Haleakala, which is just over 10,000 feet high. Now, this particular mountain on Maui, this is approximately millions of years old. But the important thing is it's a dormant volcano, so it's very safe to go up. Typically, you'd go up before sunrise, get into position, and then wait for the sun to rise. Those are actually clouds below the top of Mount Haleakala. Here you can see many people gathered with cameras, video cameras, getting the sunrise. And there's a Haleakala Visitor Center. Now, this is a very interesting visitor center. I encourage you to go in. But once again, look at the beautiful sunrise coming up above the cloud deck, which is about 2,000 feet below the top of Haleakala on this particular morning that I went up back in 2017. This is a must-do for anybody that enjoys this type of sightseeing. You want to see something different. This is quite different. Much different type of climate up here. It is much cooler up on the top in the morning, so you just, even though Hawaii is typically in the 70s and low 80s this time of year, it certainly will be much cooler up on the mountain, about 25 to 30 degrees cooler. So you want to bring a light jacket for sunrise. And here we can see at the Haleakala Visitor Center, it's 9,740 feet high, but it's even higher than that, a little over 10,000 feet over at the large astronomy observatory. Over there, it's 10,023 feet to be precise. Now, we don't really get to go inside that observatory, but I like to have some fun after sunrise. I didn't know my legs grew this long. Check this out. Play on the low sun angle. You can get some interesting shots of shadows. And this is me standing, holding a camera, taking a photo of me standing on a sidewalk, which is really unbelievably long legs, I must say. Something to think about. Well, anyway, now Haleakala, you want to learn more about the observatory, you certainly can. Even though we don't go inside, there's many markers. And you can walk around like I did to get nice views from the outside of the observatory. This, of course, is highly focused on astronomy. There's very little air pollution in Hawaii, and being at 10,000 feet, it's even a clearer view of the stars and the planets. Well, anyway, here you can see I'm still above the cloud level, looking around Mount Haleakala. The bottom line is we get up pretty early in the morning to get up here before sunrise. And after the sun rises, we spend about 2 hours up on top. There's a lot to see and do looking around. And then we get back on the motor coach and work our way down. But here you can see if you get cool, there are places you can go inside. There's unusual vegetation up on top of Mount Haleakala. This is known as silver sword, a very unusual type of plant, which is really one of the only places in the world that you will find it. And of course, it is a silver color. So those of you into plants, you have to check this out. Very interesting species up on top. Then we get some more nice views as we begin to wind our way down Mount Haleakala. Now, the crater is dormant. The crater is 3,000 feet deep, up to 7 miles wide. A huge explosion happened here many millennia ago. But in the meantime, here's dormant craters. Look at this. Dormant craters within the big crater, cinder cones. It's like being on another planet just looking at this environment here. Very remote out here, but very intriguing indeed to see these sights. So we make a stop on the way down, and that's how I got these photos. You can get out and get some interesting photos as we work our way down Mount Haleakala. Now, it's not the highest mountain in Hawaii. The highest mountain is on another island, Mauna Kea, which is just over 13,000 feet high, but this is high enough, and we don't walk very fast, so there's no real problem with the elevation there. Now, here's a sign, Haleakala National Park. We're beginning to exit as we work our way down the side of the mountain, and there you can see a final view. Now, of course, there's many things that come to mind when we think of Hawaii, and one of the big things is Hawaiian luau. You can't go to Hawaii without going to a Hawaiian luau. Now, the interesting thing, there's a lot of history to these Hawaiian luau's. The Hawaiian luau dates back several hundred years. Now, prior to King Kamehameha I, luau's were primarily reserved for large religious functions. But then King Kamehameha I came along, and by the early 1800s, he changed the policy on luau's to include not just religious activities, but any type of important activity was a good cause to have a luau. Now, the luau has several different components to it. The first component, as we can see here, is dancing in the native costumes, men and women. They like bright colors. They like brightly colored headsets, headgear. So this is their normal, customary attire from hundreds of years ago. So when we go to a luau, we start with a dinner. And then toward the end of dinner, the show starts. We typically have these luau's at a large hotel outside. And of course, Hawaii doesn't rain very much, so being outside is not much of a concern. And it's a nice temperatures in the evening always. Well, then there's another component. You have the singing and the dancing, and then they show you the native rituals, as we see here. Some of the rituals of Hawaii representing different aspects of their culture, what it would be like with farming there, what it would be like as a warrior. Many different concepts are represented in dance. So that is what we are seeing here. Now in the background, there's a live music there. You can see there on the right-hand side, a guitar. So it's not taped, this is the real deal. It's all live performance, live music. And it really is a great event to behold. Now notice the men, they have these paintings on their faces. This is very significant. These represent some of the different native tribes of Hawaiians. And those tribes did have those markings, and those were permanent markings. So they take that very seriously, representing the different tribes. Well, then another dimension to the luau is the fire dancers and the fire throwers. And what they have here, as you can see on each end of that long stick, they have a fire going, and they have to know what they're doing so they don't get burnt. And they're very talented. They twirl the fire sticks, as you can see here. They throw them up in the air, and then hopefully they catch them, so there's no trouble. But I've never seen any of these fire dancers drop one. And they are very talented, spend many months and years practicing before they go and perform at these luau's. So that's a nice way to cap off the Hawaiian luau. It really is a marvelous event, and I highly recommend it to anybody as being a part of your Hawaii tour. So once again, this tour is a total of 9 days, and as I mentioned earlier, we begin with 3 days on Oahu, 3 days on the Big Island of Hawaii, and then 3 days what we're looking at here on Maui. Those are the three, in my opinion. I've been to a number of other Hawaiian islands, but these are 3 of my favorites. And this tour is only offered every couple of years. So once I go on this tour, January 25th to February 2nd, 2022. It will not be offered for a couple more years. So if you want to see a great Hawaiian luau, great fire dancers, you enjoy warmer temperatures, especially in an Ohio winter, this is the trip for you. And it definitely deserves to be on everyone's bucket list. There is so much to offer here in Hawaii that I just can't say enough for it. I am excited about going back again, and I certainly hope that each and every one of you will continue joining me on this tour. Now, I'm not going to do like he does. I'm not putting this fire on top of my feet, that's for sure. But think about all the great fruits in Hawaii. Wonderful great fruits that we're going to try out. And Hawaiian leis, another signature trademark of Hawaii. So it is a very interesting island. It is much different from other states in America, but nevertheless, it's a very important part of our heritage in the United States of America. And then, of course, surfing, another final view of another aspect of Hawaiian life out on the surfboard. Some of the greatest surfers in the world in competitions come from Hawaii, as you might expect. So once again, all good things must come to an end. And there we are flying back this time from Maui back to the West Coast and then back to Cleveland. Now, typically, to fly from Cleveland to Hawaii with the headwinds, it's a little bit longer flight than coming home. But from Cleveland, Ohio out to Los Angeles, about 4 hours, 45 minutes. And from Los Angeles to Hawaii, it's about another 6-hour flight. So we break it up, and that makes it very nice. So I highly recommend this trip to everyone. It's suitable for all ages. There's something in it for everybody, chock full of fun for the entire family. And when you go with AAA Akron on a group tour such as this, you don't have to worry about anything. We handle all of the arrangements and all of the details, and you make many new travel friends. So it's a win-win for everyone. Having a worry-free trip at a very good price. Remember, I'm able to get group pricing at hotels and at the airlines. If you try to do this tour on your own, this same tour would cost hundreds of dollars more per person. So I highly recommend it. And remember, there's only a couple spaces left. So don't delay. Give me a call or send me an email and book today. I'm at the downtown Akron AAA office. And of course, we'll be offering more exciting virtual travel trips in the future. I call it my Plan B, virtual travel to exciting destinations around the world. So I hope you'll keep watching for that on our website at AAA Akron, as well as on YouTube. Well, as I always say on each of my trips, I go on every one of these trips as the escort. Remember, it's not just another trip, it's an adventure. Now, one thing I want to remind everybody is you can't go to Hawaii without getting a lei. So I have a special gift for everyone watching today. As you can see, I'm in my festive Hawaiian attire. They like bright colors, the vivid designs, which just certainly fits the bill. And of course, leis, which could be made out of real flowers or out of plastic flowers. Well, anyway, I want you to have this lei. Let me see how it looks on you. Oh, my word, look at this. You look amazing in this lei. Well, I look forward to seeing you on this journey. And remember, you don't have to just watch a show and get a lei. You can come with me and have one for real. So thank you very much and hope to see you down the road on travel.